Hello everyone, Joe here. Before we get into this episode, just a quick disclaimer. If you are curious why folklore is suspiciously unmentioned throughout the majority of this episode, it is because we initially recorded it in June. Folklore threw a massive wrench in our production line, and thus this episode got put on the shelf for a little bit. With production calming down a little bit around folklore, we decided to release this episode finally. Joe is very happy about it, and we've included an update at the end of the episode, including folklore. We hope you enjoy the show. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. I'm Devon.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the show where we talk about all things Taylor Swift.
That's right. This show is where two friends finally get to let their dedication to our Lord and Savior, Taylor Swift, fly.
We'll be discussing everything from song breakdowns, Taylor news, and our insane fan theories. Which, is this a fan theory? Would we classify this as?
I might call it more of a rant. More of a ranting bridge, really.
A ranting bridge. But before we get into that, I just want to check in. How you been?
I'm not leaving my house. I'm kind of like shut in, but
I feel that. I'm still leaving my house. So I've been there. I'm out interacting with the public. This old woman, I don't know if I told you this, this old woman today at work grabbed my shoulder and she goes, "You want to know how I lived this long?"
And I'm Dark Knight? What the heck is that?
And I'm like, number one, please don't touch me, ma'am. And I forget honestly what she said. I think it was something about like not smoking or whatever. But okay.
From your impression of her, it didn't sound like she didn't.
You want to know? No idea. But that's how my life's going. I have old women grabbing my shoulder.
Because you clearly want to know how the Fountain of Youth works.
Exactly. Apparently.
So today, I am very excited. As we mentioned and touched on in earlier episodes, I am a huge geek when it comes to Microsoft Excel, and I also have very, very deep-seated opinions on things.
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
As you can see right now from the slide that is up in the corner, we are going to do a presentation today. More specifically, I am going to present to Taylor Swift and let her know. To Devon, an opinion that I have formed over the last week or month. Every day is the same.
Yeah. All blends together.
That The Archer is not a track 5 song. It's a hot take.
I have opinions on this.
I know you do. I'm
Joe's.
hoping by the end of this. So my goal for this presentation, that I'm not going to lie, I was up until about 2 a.m. doing this. Because I was up till 2 a.m. I had a playlist on Spotify where I was listening to every track 5 song on repeat for about 5 hours while doing the research, gathering data, analyzing that data, and then putting it in a very what's the word I'm looking for? A very stylized PowerPoint that I'm very excited to share with everyone.
That is dedication. Isn't it hard to put together this PowerPoint?
It was
takes a while.
so much work, but it was so much fun. And
Yeah.
then I even did like a quick run through with a friend of mine so I could make sure that I didn't come off sounding like a jerk or that my points were good. And it was someone who's not a Taylor Swift fan, and afterwards she was like, "I have to listen to this song. I have to hear and like listen to all of them and everything." I might make this playlist on the We Need to Calm Down podcast Spotify account. So if everyone wants to just listen to track 5s nonstop like I did, they're all great songs. So I'd recommend.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, I don't know. I'm a pretty stubborn person, so I don't know if my opinion will change, but maybe I'll just be able to understand your side of it and appreciate it.
I am honest. I'll be completely honest and off the get-go. I formed this opinion before I did any research, and I cannot tell you how giddy I was when the research actually showed what I was trying to say.
Your hypothesis was correct.
Yeah, it's so cool. All right, so if we want to get into it, I would like to begin this presentation noting that this is not an attack on the song The Archer. It may seem like it at times. It's not my favorite song on the record by far, but The Archer is still a good song in a vacuum. I still like it. I have absolutely no qualms with the track. I think the lyrics, the production, and the music all within are all top-notch and great. My issue, though, that I'll be arguing for about the next half hour, that's right, I timed it, is that
boy.
this song does not belong in the upper echelon or in the grouping known as the track fives, as we know them. So, to sum up, The Archer is not a track 5 song. I promise you it is not.
Okay.
The next slide is probably the worst slide I've done, but bear with me. So what is a track 5? I do want to do a very high level explanation of this because I think this is something we'll probably delve a lot deeper into a future episode. So suffice it to say, Taylor Swift fans have noted that the 5th track of Taylor's album tends to showcase extremely emotional songs, especially ones that are especially intimate. Like I said, track 5 is reference to Taylor Swift, references the 5th track of all of her studio albums. So here are all of them. We have Cold As You, we have Dear John, we have White Horse, we have All Too Well, All You Have to Do Is Stay, Delicate, and then The Archer, which does not belong.
These transitions.
I spent a lot of time on these transitions. The bad part was I did
boy.
spend a lot of time Googling, like, I wanted to get how the album or how the song appeared on the album, and there were not many high-res images. So this is probably the ugliest slide that I have, hopefully. So as we move on, these are Taylor's track 5s, like I just said, from self-titled 2006, 2008, 2010, 2020.
Hallowed be thy name. Read All Too Well.
It could be argued that fans first noticed the trend of track 5s around All Too Well. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. It's probably the most track 5 song of the bunch. Or is it? Foreshadowing. Fans noticed that this group of songs all had very similar qualities and that there was something truly special about them. Shockingly, The Archer is the first time Taylor Swift really acknowledged this theory and kind of poked fun at it, noting that she never realized it herself before. So it was to Taylor, it was never an intentional thing that she did this. It was just fans pointed it out to her, and she acknowledges the lore of the track 5, if you will. But I will say it's kind of weird how the first time she publicly acknowledges the power of the track 5, it's with a song that isn't one. A false shepherd, if you will.
Okay.
So let's talk about what goes into being a track 5. What makes a song a track 5? There are many things that go into a song getting this definition.
Tell me more.
So here are some key elements seen in every track 5. Aside from the little numbers next to the title of the track, we see a generally somber tone or topic. The Archer actually has that. It's a generally somber song, very like low key tone. There's some vulnerability in every single track 5. Again, The Archer has that as well. We see some simplicity in the musical production. For the most part, Archer does kind of take care of that as well. We see another check mark. And we see some specifics. This is especially seen in All Too Well. But every good track 5 includes great specific detail. Taylor said in an interview that she worried All Too Well wouldn't be relatable because of how specific it was to her. This is true of most of her track 5 songs, but not The Archer. Them lyrics generic. That's a no from me, dog. But there are 3 pillars that are the most important categories that every track 5 song until Lover has had. Those categories are romance, which I said weirdly inflected by accident. Romance. This song has some very, very mild romantic elements, but it ain't a romance song. Relationships. Get out of here. Taylor Swift does reference a relationship of some kind with the lyrics, "Help me hold on to you." But the focus of the song is hardly on some kind of romantic relationship. I would even argue that Help Me Hold On to You is more of a self-introspection than it is referencing to an outside person. But we'll get into that as we go on. And finally, the last line of the song, or the last important part, is heartbreak. Nope. There are some sad lines in this song for sure, but I would be very hard-pressed to call this song a song of heartbreak. These three topics are the pillars of any Taylor Track 5 song. Every single Track 5 is built on the foundations of romance, relationships, and heartbreak, and The Archer has none of them.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I don't think it's a typical romantic song. I don't think it, I mean, the way that I view The Archer, it's a song about being anxious in a relationship and having self-doubt. So again, like you say, there are romantic tones, but it isn't a romance song. I'd agree with that sentiment, but to say that it's not about a relationship just because it doesn't have specific details of relationship, I would fight against that.
I will say, and as it is with every song, everyone's going to interpret it in a different way. But because specifically me, the more that I listen to it, and like I said, 5 hours in one night, to me, the more I listened to it, the more it felt like it was an internal struggle that she was talking about.
I can agree with that.
It felt much more of like, help me hold on to you, because she felt like she was losing part of herself. Not that she was losing part of another person that she was in a relationship with. We'll probably go into that more in depth when we actually do the song breakdown of this. I told you I wanted to do this episode before the song breakdown of Archer because, like I said, I do like the song. I think it is a very good song, but I don't think it's a Track 5. So I'm going to trash it for a half hour. But I do like the song. I need to keep reiterating that. So let's go into some statistics, and that's right, we're bringing Excel into this. Guys, I can't even begin to explain. I did this on a Friday night. This was the most fun I've had in all of quarantine.
I mean, honestly, like, you're not gonna go out during quarantine, so it's like you might as well Friday night.
Even if everything was open, I would choose to do this over going out. It was so much fun. I can't even begin to express. And I found ways to make it look really cool. So, so I did what any geek would do with Excel. I ran the numbers and then I made it look pretty.
God.
I went through every single song, line by line, and I counted the lines that were specifically referencing a romantic relationship, as well as lines that specifically referenced heartbreak, or were lines that were sad but in direct reference to relationships. What I found was staggering.
Yes.
I have to remember the timing of this because I don't remember how this goes. So while this data, of course, is rather subjective, and depending on how you define romantic, the findings, like I said, shocking. The Archer has a significantly less romantic content in it, heartbreak or otherwise. Relationships are barely mentioned. Cold as You. I'm sorry. This is a really weird way to do this. The non-Archer song that referenced relationships the least was Cold as You, with only 80% of the lines being romantically related. 8%. 3 out of 7 of the songs were a straight 100%, with every line in the song, in my opinion, being interpreted as relating to a relationship in some way. Furthermore, I looked into the lines regarding heartbreak and sadness, and Delicate was the lowest real Track 5 at 47.9%.
Real Track 5.
The Archer has only 30.6% of the lines in the song, in my opinion, could be related to a relationship in some way. Significant difference between the others. Furthermore, as you can see, Delicate 47. Only 16.3% of Archer scored lines scored relating to heartbreak or sadness. That's significant difference. That is statistically significant. Where the lowest before that is 47.9, which I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty low. But again, we go back to that whole song is about a relationship. 84.9% of it, and that was a little bit of a tough one to go through because some of the lyrics were like, isn't it? And I'm like, well, how do I define that?
Exactly.
But most of like the impactful lines about a relationship.
Okay.
To get even more specific, only 34 of the 49 total lines in the song had anything to do with relationship or heartbreak. That's almost 70% of the song had nothing to do with a relationship or heartbreak. Now, this song is overtly sad and about a somber topic, Taylor reflecting on her shortcomings, but as we can see here, it's clearly an anomaly that sticks out like a sore thumb when we look at the lyrical content.
In terms of the specifics, yes.
Obviously, like,
yes.
Again, I know, like, Devon's here to, like, keep me in check. I did cherry pick a lot of things, but I think that what I quote unquote cherry picked does harken back to what I'm trying to say. Like, this song is just not a romantic song, and that's what every single track 5 before it was. If we can go any further, I also love this data that I made. It was so much fun. Nice. It's so cool. It's so cool.
It looks
guys.
Good.
Anyway, it's an interesting side note that by this metric, technically all you had to do was stay is the most track 5 at 100%.
And do you know what's the most interesting about all you had to do was stay? Is in terms of listening to the song, it is so upbeat and poppy and does not sound sad in the slightest. It's only the lyrical content that would make it a track 5.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, that's why, like, I said, obviously in the beginning, All Too Well, the most track 5 ever. By this metric, it is all you had to do was stay. But when you take into account every part of the song, it loses points while All Too Well gains back what was missing. So this is the next one is another piece of data that I'm very excited about. I'm really happy with it because I started it with a hunch, and when I actually started researching the Archer and pulling this data, I pulled the Archer last, and I was so relieved to find out that I was right because it was like 2 hours of like combing through lyrics. But I promise that you'll never find another like me. The Archer is the only track 5 that puts more emphasis on Taylor than it does another person. So me's versus you's. One weird aspect of this that points to the Archer being a standout, separating itself from other track 5s, is the change of focus. Historically, Taylor's track 5s are more centered on her broken heart at the hands of another, frequently pointing to the other person who broke her heart out in the lyrics. You. In all of her track 5s, almost 2,600 words. That's right, I counted. The actual number is 2,599. Taylor says you or some variant of you, your, you've, 201 times. She says me a mere 64 times. Of this, 28% of all me's across 7 songs, 2,600 words, are all from the Archer. Meanwhile, a mere 4% of all you's appear in the Archer. I will note, it can be argued that all you had to do was stay could skew the data because you is in the title and it's literally the whole chorus. But an interesting to note, even removing that song entirely from the average number of you's is still 27.6, and it's still 3 times higher than the number of you's in the Archer.
Okay. Well, I mean, also, this is really cool data, but also the Archer, the whole bridge repeats the word me like a million times. They see right through me. They see me.
I will be honest. This data is very weird to pull out, but it was a hunch that I kind of.
That is interesting.
It was one of those things where I was like, it just seems like so weird. And then I was like, screw it. Let me look into it. And as I kept going, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I can't believe this is working. But every other track 5 focused on you, and the Archer is focused on me, which it makes sense with the type of the song. Like the Archer is a very like me-driven song. She's focused. She's introspective in this song, where all of the other ones are about heartbreak. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, these track 5 songs are meant to be about heartbreak or romance or some combination of the two. And the Archer just doesn't fit that mold. What? Go ahead.
I think I just thought of my counter argument, but I don't know if I want to wait.
I forget what the next slide is, so let's
I'll
see.
I'll wait till the end.
Three times. So what do the other songs have that I don't?
What do they have that I don't? The whininess.
Specificity is the number one thing that I wanted to point out. I could do more data and statistics, but like I said, I had done so much going up to this, and that took a lot of time. But I wanted to point out some differences in lyrical content and lack of specificity that the Archer has in relation to the other track 5 songs. And I will say might be parts of it gets to be some of my weaker arguments. So Devon, you might tear me to shreds in a bunch of this. So we're gonna start with the stretchiest, Cold as You. So I start a fight because I need to feel something, and you come away with a great little story of a mess of a dreamer with the nerve to adore you. I'm definitely stretching a bit here because the specificity isn't crazy. These are the most specific lyrics I could find in the song. But you can see Taylor is drawing from a specific experience she had, and that boy is coming away with the time of broke your heart. Like that kid now goes, yeah, I broke Taylor Swift's heart one day, and that's a very specific to her situation.
Yeah, I mean so I start a fight because I need to feel something. I feel like that's a generic line.
Yeah, I can't really. Like I said, this is the stretchiest that I can go. I promise it'll get more taut as we go through.
Okay.
God, I hate using that word. That was so bad.
Taut.
White Horse. I mean, it's clear this is about a very specific boy. This is about a very specific relationship. Some of the lyrics, this ain't Hollywood. This is a small town. I'm going to find someone someday who might actually treat me well. This is a big world. That was a small town. They're my rear view mirror disappearing now, and it's too late for you and your white horse. More so over the lyrics, this song as a whole is a very specific song just because it is relating to a very specific person. Relating it to Hollywood and that it's not a small town anymore. Like, it's very specific to her exact situation. Not everyone really knows that, like, they're going through this change. I will say she does keep it a little generic. So again, this one, I think this is more poignant than Cold as You, but still a little stretchy. Still a little stretchy. But we're gonna eliminate that stretch here with Dear John, because I don't know how you can get more specific than straight up calling out your ex's name in the title, but we can.
Yeah.
So you see, my mother accused me of losing my mind, but I saw her as fine. This is a specific situation that happened to her. You can see that she is cherry picking specific events that happened during this relationship that then became pivotal lines in this song. And I would argue the reason the first two were so stretchy is because she was still finding her footing as a pop icon, and she had to be very generic because that's just how that is. I lived in your chess game, but you changed the rules every day, wondering which version of you I'd get on the phone. The girl in the dress cried the whole way home. I should have known. I will say one thing that's very commendable about Taylor is her ability to write lyrics that are rather specific to her own experiences, but still can be related to the general audience. This seems to most heavily in the very next song. There's another line I forgot about. You are an expert at sorry and keeping lines blurry. But All Too Well, the most specific song Taylor has ever written. The king of specificity, the most specific song of the bunch. I almost ran out of room for all of the specific references to extremely detailed events in a relationship. Left my scarf there at your sister's house. We're singing in the car, getting lost upstate. There you are again on that little town street. You almost ran the red because you were looking over at me. Photo album on the counter, cheeks turning red, little kid with glasses, twin size bed. I'm not going to read them all. It's basically the whole song. The whole song.
The whole verse.
Is just a specific masterpiece. It's a wonder that this song made people realize the track 5 trend. Like, I will say, doing as an aside, doing a lyrical analysis on All Too Well was so much fun. I found just doing this, like, I found like other things that I want to talk about. It's just such a masterpiece, guys. It's so ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I digress. So all you had to do was stay. This one might rival Cold as You as the most generic, but you can still see some specific events. Why'd you have to go and lock me out when I let you in? Here you're not calling me up, but I don't know what to say. People like me are gone forever when you say goodbye, which, like, everyone strives to be that person, I think. But these are still pretty like specific to like you can see Taylor is drawing from a specific event in her past. It's not like to me it's not like a generic she found like of all of her relationships. She knows exactly which relationship she is referencing.
Okay.
I feel like I'm losing you now.
I'm just trying to like think in my head because I'm analyzing now like while you're talking. This is all in live time that I'm processing. So you have to forgive me for my faces. I'm like thinking.
Delicate rivals all too well for specificity. Again, I almost ran out of room on this one, but dive bar on the east side where you at. We're getting like locations. We're getting descriptions of people's clothes, which we've never seen before. Like we don't get like dark jeans in your Nikes. Third floor on the west side, more locations. Long nights with your hair up, my echo of your footsteps. We get all of that from that song. And then we move to The Archer. And I tried to pull some lyrics that could be considered specific, because I want it in fairness. And you can be hard on me here, but they still seem rather generic. I've got 100 thrown out speeches I almost said to you. I wake in the night, I pace like a ghost. But I couldn't really find many other ones, in my opinion. And I tried to be objective. Like, I tried not to just be like, well, I'm going to only find a couple and, like, not pull. Like, I pulled what I thought of. But while I was doing this, another thing I noticed is just how metaphorical this song is. I never grow up. It's getting so old. But you see, like, these songs are the lines in the song are extremely figurative and intangible. Pace like a ghost. I've been the archer. I've been the prey. I cut off my nose just to spite my face. I wake in the night, pace like a ghost. The room is on fire, invisible smoke. All of my heroes die all alone. All the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put me together. Like these songs, whereas you can see like every other song aside from White Horse, which is on an album that's bathed in metaphor, a majority of other songs on track 5 canon are extremely grounded, real, tangible events, easy to pinpoint where they were in her relationships. This is anecdotal, but I'm going to mention it anyway. It still feels as though a majority of these lines lack specificity. It feels really generic, which is not a bad thing. It sounds like I'm attacking it. It's not a bad thing that these sound generic. But in the context of this track 5, these metaphors are beautiful. And the pictures that they paint are absolutely wonderful, especially for the themes and focus of this song. But they absolutely clash with everything we've seen with track 5s up to this point. And I do go absolutely nuts for the metaphors in this song. Like, they're absolutely beautiful, and I really enjoy them. But there's not a lot of metaphor used, aside from White Horse, but come on, that whole album is a fairy tale. There's not a lot of metaphors used in track 5 songs. So, but what can we do about it? Well, I'm glad you asked.
What can we do about it?
So, what's our solution here? Where do we go? What can we do about it? We could reorder the track list. It's going to cost a lot of money in restocking fees, withdrawals, printing new vinyls, CDs, and cassettes. But it's for a good cause, let me tell you. But what are we going to replace it with? Like, if we're going to reorder this track list, how are we going to replace it? What song on Lover is a track 5?
I feel like you're about to say a very hot take, and I'm nervous.
I think you're going to agree with me. I genuinely think you're going to agree with me on this one. There actually is a perfect track 5 on this album already. Taylor...
Can I guess before you say it?
Sure.
I want to say maybe Afterglow?
Taylor must be really bad at math. Because she must have switched them and added 10 to it instead of 5. Because track 15 could easily be track 5 with a well-placed Sharpie. What is this song? 100%.
Yeah! Oh, I got it!
Yes, it's 100% Afterglow. The you to me ratio fits. The subject matter hits all the right notes. The romantic content is there. Here's our updated data, looking at how Afterglow fits as opposed to The Archer. Immediate flip. Double the number of yous versus me's in Afterglow, and it fits. You can already see it. It aligns so much better with the rest of the data. If we go into The next point of data, you can see only 3 lines of Afterglow are about neither relationships or heartbreak, while 48 of the 51 are all about heartbreak and sadness. 94%! That's good numbers. That actually does take Delicate to be the lowest in regards to heartbreak, just under 50%. But from this, it's just so easy to see. Afterglow fits this model so much better than Archer does. So how do these themes stack up? Like we said, well, it's simple. Half the song is just a simple drum beat and a long-lasting chord. Check. Song is slow, sad, somber. Check. This is probably one of the most vulnerable songs Taylor has ever been. Maybe Back to December rivals it, but this is Taylor admitting her fault and her remorse for her own actions. Check. Specific. This song has so many specific lyrics, and where Taylor is clearly referencing a specific event that happened to her. Check. Romantic. This song is hella romantic. Relationship. Focal point is on a relationship. Check. Heartbreak. She literally says, why'd I have to break what I love so much? Even when I break your heart. The song is heartbreak. Fits all of these models. Afterglow. What's up?
Could you just said, though, the song rivals Back to December as a very vulnerable song that also hits a lot of these points. But Back to December's not a track 5. We already have
Dear John, and that is a track 5. There. I'm not saying.
So you're saying that there can be
track 5s are just track 5s, because you could argue there are like Last Kiss. I thought was track 5 for a while.
A square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square.
And I do think there are many songs that could be a track 5 too if we just reordered them, but this is the first time that not to discredit her, but she got it wrong. Like that's just not. It just doesn't fall in line. And I think Afterglow 100% does. I will say, do we need another reason why Afterglow should be it? How about we flip the formula on its head while still staying true to it? This song is still more true to the track 5s of yore, but Taylor is the bad guy. In every other track 5, someone broke her heart. Here, she's the source of the heartbreak. She's recounting her errors in the relationship instead of recounting someone else's, like in Cold As You, White Horse, Dear John. All you have to do is stay. It's fun, it's change, it's growth, all while staying true to form. So, in conclusion, track 5, it's just not one. It's just, Archer is just not a track 5. It's a great song, not a track 5. The Archer, I'm sorry, you're technically a track 5 song, but only because of the number next to it. It does not truly embody what it means to be a track 5. You're on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master. So if we want to take a little bit of time at the end, and I want you, what rebuttals have you come to me? Have I convinced you a little bit?
To an extent, yes. You've convinced me that from the points and the what's the word? What's the word? For the guidelines that you have provided and the points that you have created, yes, the Archer does not hit all of the categories for being a track 5 from what you defined as a track 5. However, while I can appreciate the data and I can't say that the data doesn't exist, I feel like you're missing what other things a track 5 encapsulates, and I feel...
No, I definitely. What do you... I mean, I think obviously it does have some parts of it.
I think that when you talk about change and growth while staying true to form, because it's not about, heartbreak and love and sadness, I feel like when I listen to The Archer, I feel like, because the whole song is about, not song, but the whole album, Lover, is about, romantic themes. And this song is her wrestling with herself about this idea of romance and, I'm trying to think of, lyrics off the top of my head, I feel like instead of there being a love interest, because there is to some extent in the song, I feel like the love interest she's analyzing is herself. So instead of circumstances where it's like she's analyzing someone else and it's all these specifics, it's her being introspective and like
Yeah.
about herself rather
Which
than someone
shows
else.
in the data. She's
I don't know. I
referencing
feel like,
me more than someone else.
I know.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that song does show a lot of growth.
No, I know.
It shows that like you could see a huge difference in the way that she is writing and thinking from White Horse to now. And I think it's an important song. I really do. And if vulnerability was the only factor when it comes to track 5s, which it is a huge factor of it, it does hit on that. Like, it is an extremely vulnerable song. I'll be completely honest, when I first heard it, I hated the song. But I have grown to really appreciate it for what it is. And
well, I think when you think of track 5s and she says, "Oh, I'm releasing a track 5," everyone's kind of waiting with bated breath to cry in their car and have this, like, you know, all too well expectation levels. And to hear the Archer, at first, you know, you are kind of like uncomfortable and you're like, well, why? This doesn't sit right. This isn't what a track 5 sounds like. But that's the premise of the song. That's the point. You're supposed to feel uneasy. The song is about anxiety. And we'll talk about that when we get into the song breakdown. According to the data that you have provided and the guidelines that you have set, I can agree, yes, this is not a traditional track 5. I will say that.
That's a good way to say it. That is a good way to say it. The Archer is a phenomenal song. I highly recommend, if you haven't heard it yet. I've already made like dozens of people listen to it by telling them that I was going to do this presentation. And they all really enjoy it. I think it's a very important song in Taylor's discography. I think it shows a lot of important things. It was a necessary song on this album. I think Afterglow is the best version of a track 5 on this album. I cannot wait to go in depth and discuss every track 5 and do breakdowns.
I could see Afterglow as a track 5. I will agree with you there. When you said that, I was like, that does make a lot of sense. And I love Afterglow as a song.
You cried to it too.
And I did cry.
I'm
trying to think.
I did cry.
Did I cry to All You Had to Do Is Stay? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we both, because I said that I did. Because people like me want to believe you when you say, yeah.
People like me are, okay.
Gone forever when you say goodbye. At least I did. Cried All Too Well, Dear John.
I don't know if I cried to Dear John. I
definitely didn't try to Delicate.
Yeah, no.
But Delicate is less about heartbreak, more about relationships, as we see in the data.
I don't know. I feel like all of the songs, with the exception of the couple that like really hone in on it, like they can be interpreted in different ways, and like
that's music. Yeah.
Now you're explaining music to me. All right, Joe.
Yeah.
I know.
No, in conclusion, like I said, I think it's an important song. I think it's a great song. Beautifully written, extremely well written, well recorded. It's just when I think of a track 5, when I first heard it, and because it was billed to me as Taylor referencing this body of work of track 5s, something always didn't sit right with me. And I think that's probably why I didn't like it in the beginning, was because it was sold to me as a track 5 and it never felt like it to me. And doing all this data and research on it, I see why, at least in my eyes, it didn't encapsulate a track 5. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, their own interpretations. This song is, like I said, bathed in metaphor.
Yeah.
It's so open to interpretation on everything she says. Half of the me's or half of the you's in this song could have been a me. Like, she could have just been all talking about herself and never even thought of a second person in this song. I'm excited to talk about it in the upcoming episode where we do the breakdown on it. I hope you guys don't think that I don't like this song.
No, Joe made it very clear to me before we recorded this episode. He's like, listen, it's going to sound like I'm attacking the song. I'm not. I like the song. It's just
so good.
In the context of this episode and, you know, talking about track 5s, it might just come off that I don't like it.
I also might attack Devon and tell her that we are going to do a 5-part breakdown of All Too Well, way out of order.
because going through those lyrics and just like and going through them with a fine-tooth comb,
Oh.
Lord help me.
We're talking about Lover, and all of a sudden, All Too Well.
It's so good. I can't get over how good. Anyway,
Nothing safe is worth the drive. I was gonna say nothing's worth the wait.
that's not Lover, or that's not.
No,
All
I
Too
know.
Well.
I'm just trying to think of a Taylor Swift lyric.
What is that song?
It's Treacherous.
Is it Treacherous?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna end now. So thank you guys for listening. Psych.
That's right. Psych's back. It's 2005.
Okay.
You can say psych again. Please tell your friends. Anyway, no. We are back. It has been about 4 months and a whole album since we recorded that initial episode that you guys just listened to.
I can't believe it's been 4 months.
4 months. We recorded that in June.
We were so optimistic, and then
we got sent a giant derail of folklore.
Yes.
That really threw us for a loop. But we're back. And we are going to do a quick segment at the end of this episode called a Should Have Said So to kind of tie it into folklore.
Yes.
So I went through, those of you who know, Folklore came out with a new album. Folklore dropped. So that means there's a new track 5. We just spent 40 minutes talking about track 5s and whether or not The Archer is a track 5. And now we have another data point to go over.
Yes, we do.
With My Tears Ricochet. So I've made a supplementary PowerPoint, changed the color scheme to fit with Folklore. So we're going to do a quick Should Have Said So, asking, is My Tears Ricochet a true track 5 according to our data, and does it further back up my point that The Archer is not, or does it hurt my case?
We'll find out.
So, the first thing we want to ask is, do the themes match up with the themes that we've laid out earlier in this episode? So, Devon, you can help me with this one because you are the music person.
Sure.
Would you say the composition of this song is simple?
I'd say so. I think that there's some moments, but I think overall the song is pretty simple in terms of its composition.
Giving that one a check mark. Is it somber?
Yes, 100%.
We
You're
are
at a funeral.
Yeah, pretty somber. All right. Would you say it's vulnerable?
Yes.
I know the answer to all of these. I'm just like proving my point by having a second party do it. Is it specific?
Very.
All right. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here. Is it actually...
Go in order.
Go in order. Is it romantic?
I don't think so.
All right. So yeah, that we did mention the 3 most important pillars of a track 5 song starts with romanticism, and it is not romantic, and I will concede that point. It definitely is not a very romantic song. But is it about a relationship?
100%.
And finally, is it about heartbreak?
Yes.
All right, so we check 6 out of the 7 boxes. Not bad, though we do have to dock extra points because it is not romantic. Because romantic is a very big focal point of a track 5. Now let's look at the me's versus the you's. So here are the me's versus the you's as they were before Folklore. Here they are with My Tears Ricochet. My Tears Ricochet had 14 iterations of me and 25 iterations of you.
Okay, so pretty on par.
So it's pretty on par with everything. Again, we have a clear skewed towards you than me. I will say for one thing on this, I did exclude any I's for just the sake of being very transparent and honest. It's been a very long time since I did this data, and I forgot if in the original I tracked I's. I do not think I
don't think
did.
you did.
But I's would have skewed it crazy in the other direction. But for the data as it sits, it is one of the most me versus you songs, so we do fit in that criteria. But how does the content line up? So if you remember from 30 minutes ago for you, 4 months ago for us, we looked. I went through line by line and found lines that regarded heartbreak and sadness, and lines regarding relationships, and then lines about neither. So if we see the new one, there are about 33 lines that I could define as about heartbreak or sadness out of a potential 53. There are 20 lines regarding relationships, and then there are 16 lines regarding neither. So it does stand out as it has the second most lines about neither next to The Archer. But weirdly enough, one of the most interesting things is every other song has more lines about relationships than it does about heartbreak, except this one. This song is much more about just straight sadness and straight heartbreak than it is about any kind of relationship. And like we said, this song isn't really about romance.
No.
There's not a lot of romance, if any, in this song. And if we look at the percentage points here, about 62% of the lines are about heartbreak and sadness, while only 37% are about relationships. This is interesting because this does make it the second lowest song about relationships under The Archer, which is at 30. But we still have 62%, which makes it the third lowest in songs about heartbreak.
Okay.
So it's still up there. It's definitely on the bottom echelon of it. But I think that this leads us to a really interesting point that we'll get into a little bit later. But right now, the last thing that we talked about, another point, was specificity. So as we've spoken on this song many times, we have at least 2 episodes on this song alone. Go back and listen to them if you haven't. We have a song breakdown in between the lines. But this song wears so many hats. It is a story in that this story tells so... Jesus.
Try that again?
Yeah. This song wears so many hats in that the story it tells has so many different implications. The number one theory that we mentioned a lot that Devon is a big proponent of, as well as me, she convinced me on it, is that this song is about Taylor and her discography, which is a not specific thing only to Taylor.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I think it rivals, if not beats out, All Too Well for specificity. Because All Too Well, specifically, you can tell about her relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it has so many key points in it. This song is even more so.
I would disagree with that. I think that All Too Well has more details that make it extremely specific. I think that this song is specific in a way, but
more through metaphor.
Yes,
I can see that 100%. All right, that's a good point. You've in the moment swayed my opinion already.
Woo.
But. This is a Taylor losing her discography and mourning the loss of her songs is something that almost no one can relate to aside from maybe Kanye.
Oh. Apparently now he's on her side now.
Oh no, he's not on our side. He's on his side.
Yes.
But somehow this song is also about James and Betty. If you listen to our love triangle breakdown, both parts, we talked about how this song could be a piece of that love triangle, and you can interpret it as such. But it's also about just getting over someone being dead to you, a fight that ended a relationship. There are so many different layers to this song. It's insane.
Yeah.
So it's nuts that this song, which we can't say for certain, but it'd be very hard pressed to find out that this song is not about Taylor's
Discography, yeah.
Discography. So she clearly wrote it with that in mind, but somehow it's so relatable to everyone. So this song has many meanings, but is somehow still relatable to the general audience. But at the end of the day, it is about just the most specific Taylor situation possibly imaginable.
Yes.
So this song's specific AF, but still relatable AF. So what is our verdict? Devon, is My Tears Ricochet a track 5?
Yes.
Not just because it is a track 5.
100% yes.
Does this further prove that The Archer is not a track 5?
With the data points, yes, but I think something that's interesting is that it's similar to The Archer. Like it's a nice bridge in between the old track 5s and then what The Archer was. I think that this is a key song that says, "Hey, maybe we're skewing towards something."
I really like that Taylor is branching out on what kind of bridges she builds.
I loved this bridge, so.
So one thing that's also interesting is the other implications of this song, like you were just mentioning. Like I think one of the big things is this song, while we do think by the skin of its teeth, it is a true track 5, but it does feel different. It's not a White Horse track 5.
No.
It's not. It's not an all too well track 5.
It's not all you had to do was stay track 5. Yeah.
Like we said, there is almost nothing romantic or relationship about this song. It's just about heartbreak and sadness, which I think shows us that this could be Taylor moving in a different direction just as a songwriter in general.
You also have to think about like where she's at in her life. She's not like dating around anymore. She's been in a stable relationship for what, 3 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 3-year trip getting lunch down by the lakes. She's happy, and it's, you know, you can still write songs about heartbreak and sadness. Trust me, we've seen it with this
Death by a
album.
Thousand Cuts and
with this
whole
album in general. Yeah, she still got it, but I think that for her track 5s, you really don't have to have this relationship sadness. I think there's so much sadness in life that doesn't come from a relationship that I think she's starting to dig into that a little bit more.
We can peel that out. We can get that out. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. But I'm very interested in T Swift 8. Is this 8?
This is 8.
T Swift 9. I'm very interested to see what the next track 5 holds and see if this trend continues.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely do an update once that comes out to see if this trend of Taylor slowly removing relationships from her track 5s, but keeping that heartbreak and sadness in these songs, and vulnerability, somberness, like all of these other traits that we've come to see. So the last thing I have to say, Devon, are you convinced?
Yeah, I would think so. I think that The Archer was not Lover's track 5. I think that you could argue that Afterglow would be a little bit more formulaic. Yep. But I think that it's not a traditional track 5. Like I've said before, I think it's a track 5 in a way.
Yeah, there's a number. There's a number next to it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
No, I actually think it'd be really interesting too if this album came out before Lover. And it became more of a transition. Like you said, this feels like a very transitionary track. If we got My Tears Ricochet before The Archer, I think it wouldn't have been such a jarring change. Yeah. And I would have been probably more acceptable of The Archer's track 5 status. But the way it sits, it definitely, like, it's a blip. It feels like an outlier.
It feels like you're going backwards for a second to say, this is why we did that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm glad that you guys were able to listen to this Should Have Said So and the episode before it. If you guys have any questions, have any theories of yourself, what do you think? Do you think this is a track? Do you think Archer is a track 5? Do you think My Tears Ricochet is a track 5? Where do you think Taylor is going with this? Leave us a comment. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. Tell your friends about us. Tell our friends about this so they can weigh in as well. We want to hear as many opinions on this because Joe can never hear that he's wrong enough.
Yes. I don't tell him frequently enough. Make sure you follow us on social media. We're everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, at We Need to Calm Down Podcast. On Twitter, it's WNTCD Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think.
If you have any recommendations for another episode, feel free to give us shoot us a DM or a comment, and we'll love to hear it. Love to hear your feedback. Outside of that, we will see you this Thursday for another song breakdown.
Yes.
Outside of that, come back.
We'll be here.